Welcome to Fairview Baptist Church in Lindsay. Not only do we want to minister to the people who regularly attend Fairview, but we also want to minister to those who live within the city of Kawartha Lakes with the good news of Jesus Christ. Come on in and join us for worship. It is our prayer that you'll be blessed. Thank you, worship team. Now it's good to be back in the routine of fall and getting the kids off to school this past week and seeing programs start up, and it's good to see you here too. Past little while, we have heard, in fact, we've watched in horror, the unprovoked violence in the world around us. About a year ago, many of us remember in Kenya, shopping mall, the Westgate Mall, where terrorists stormed the place when people were just shopping, minding their own business. It was unprovoked completely. And the terrorists came in and killed over 65 people. They blew up the place. Terrorized people. Do those people deserve it at all? No. It was totally unprovoked. Terrorists thought they should do that. We've watched just recently in Iraq, ISIS moving in and going after Christians there who have lived there for centuries. Peaceful, quiet lives. It's totally unprovoked, but these radical Islamists have come in and slaughtered many of these Christians, burned their churches, and done horrible atrocities to these people. Why? Did these Christians deserve it? No, it was totally unprovoked. We've watched how Russia, in the past little while, has been moving in on Ukraine, and yeah, there are issues with Ukraine and problems within Ukraine, but did Ukraine provoke Russia to come on in and take them over? No. The injustice, the terrible things that are going on in this world around us. This past week, I was talking to my neighbor just a couple doors down from me. My neighbor was a little bit distraught. Told me how tires on their vehicle were slashed. How somebody stole lawn ornaments and moon lights out of their garden. Now, I don't believe my neighbor is some undercover mafia person. They just moved there. But no, I don't think they are. They're a nice older couple, nice people. They didn't provoke anybody to do this. It was just a random act of violence. How do we deal with these things? And the list can go on and on and on. And too often we're hearing of terrible things happening to others. And if we really dwell on them, we could get overwhelmed. To even add to that, the needs within this world. It seems there's so many needy people. And we prayed for Walt as he goes off to Haiti. If you want to see need, go to Haiti. But we also have need within Lindsay, people who have emotional needs, people who have financial needs, people who have physical needs. So many people could use some help. But there's also lots of bullying going around and people who are harsh to other people who don't deserve that. But there's also many people like you who are making a difference in this world, who are volunteering and doing good deeds. Yet, many times, it doesn't seem to be encouraged. Many times it goes unnoticed. And it's not the things that are highlighted. How do we deal with these things? And really, none of these things are new. Recently, they've just been highlighted a little bit more in the news. We've done a series this past summer out of 2 Peter chapter 1, verses 5 through 9, titled An Ever-Increasing Faith. And how do we increase our faith? How do we grow in our faith? And the Apostle Peter gives us some very practical teaching on this. He says in 1 Peter 1:5, he says, "For this very reason, make every effort to add to your faith." Add to your faith. It starts with faith. Faith in what? Faith in Jesus Christ. Faith in Jesus Christ and what he has done for us on the cross. How he's giving us meaning and purpose. How we and our trust and our belief in him has transformed us. And he says it starts with that. It starts with your faith. And so with that faith, add these things. And he says this. He says this in 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 5. He says, for this very reason, make every effort to add to your faith goodness, and to goodness knowledge, and to knowledge self-control, and to self-control perseverance, and to perseverance godliness, and to godliness brotherly kindness, and finally to brotherly kindness love. Last summer we've gone through and we examined all these words, and this morning we're going to be looking at the word love. Pastor Steve a couple of weeks ago talked about brotherly kindness. In fact, the original word in the original language for brotherly kindness is the word love. And that love is more of a brotherly love for one another. And today we're looking at another type of love. It's called agape love, a love for a deeper love than that. Someone who had to grasp this concept from Jesus is the writer of this letter, Peter. The apostle Peter, the disciple Peter, the Peter who hung out with Jesus. The Peter who said, Jesus, I will do anything. I will go anywhere. I will fight for you. I will die for you. Watch me. I will do this. I love you this much, type Peter. But Peter's love was conditional. It was conditional on the fact that Jesus was the winner in the end. And when Jesus was arrested, when Jesus was beaten, when Jesus was hauled off to the cross, was Peter there with him saying, I'll do it, I'll fight for you, I'll die with you? No. Peter was denying him, not once, not twice, but 3 times he denied Jesus. Peter's love was not unconditional, it was conditional. It was conditional on Jesus winning. And Jesus did not win at that time. And so Peter had denied Jesus, the disciples had fled, Jesus died, Jesus rose from the grave. And if you take your Bibles and turn to John chapter 21, verses 15 through 19, this is where we pick up. Jesus rose from the grave and he was appearing to the disciples. And the disciples were a little bit disillusioned, didn't know what to do, so they decided to go back to their old way of life, which was fishing. And Jesus called many of them out of the life of fishing, and so the disciples were out fishing all night long in the boat, and as they were fishing, like many of you this summer, they caught nothing. And Jesus comes out and says, hey guys, they didn't know it was Jesus. Jesus says, guys, throw your nets on the other side of the boat. They heard from this guy, and so they decided to throw it on the other side of the boat, and they caught a huge amount of fish, and they pulled them in. And Peter said, that was Jesus. And Peter hops out of the boat and runs towards Jesus, and Jesus has prepared a breakfast for these disciples. And they all recline and they eat, and that's the first part of John chapter 21. And we pick up in verse 15, and it says this. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me more than these being the other disciples? Yes, Lord, he said. You know that I love you. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me? And he answered, yes, Lord. You know that I love you. And Jesus said, take care of my sheep. And the third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him a third time, do you love me? And he said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. I love you, Peter says. Why didn't Jesus say, Peter, Let's just cut to the heart of the matter here. You denied me 3 times. Will you stick up for me in the end? Why didn't Jesus say that? Peter, you made a promise. Remember that promise? And I told you would deny me. But remember that promise? You said you would stick to it to the end. But you denied me 3 times. Why didn't Jesus say that? Why instead of saying, Peter, do you love me? Because something bigger is happening here. And we're told that Jesus knew that Peter would deny him. Jesus knew that his disciples would flee. Jesus knew that Judas would betray him. And Peter didn't understand the plan. No one did except Jesus. And so there's something bigger going on all along. So he says to Peter, Peter, I want to get more to the heart of the matter here. Peter, do you love me? Peter says, yes, Lord, I love you 1 time. Jesus said to him the 2nd time, do you love me? And the 3rd time, do you love me? Peter says, you know I do. In a way, Jesus is confronting Peter. Jesus, knowing Peter's heart, how remorseful he was, he probably had tears streaming down his face, knowing how much he denied him, how much guilt he had, how he found it was impossible to stand up for Jesus in the midst of that terrible adversity. So in a way, Jesus is saying, hey, Peter, I have a plan for you here. I have a plan for you. I got something new, and I want you to love me. I want you to feed my sheep. Peter, I want you to feed my followers. As you love me with everything, feed my sheep. Take care of my sheep. What does he mean by that? Well, these sheep are these woolly things that he's saying, and was Jesus a farmer on the side who says, I want you to take care of them as I go? Is that what he's saying? No. He's saying, my sheep are my followers. My sheep are my disciples. My sheep are the ones that I care for, the ones who are following after me. Peter, I want you to be part of feeding them. I want you to lead them. I want you to guide them as I move on from here. Feed them. Then he says, do you love me, Peter? Now, this is the love that our culture really gets confused on. How often do guys say to each other, hey, man, just want to let you know I love you. You know, guys, tomorrow if you're working in construction, just stop things going on the construction site. So, guys, just got an announcement for you. I love you. Or if you're in the factory, just stop the machine. Just say, hey, I just want to tell you guys I love you. Look at you're weird. And our society says love is this infatuation, this feeling that you have for that other special person that you're drawn to, and there's something about them that draws you to them, and you're so attracted to them. That's what our society says love is. Is that what's going on here? Absolutely not. There's something so much deeper here going on. And Jesus says, do you love me, Peter? And Peter says, I love you. And I'm sorry for what I've done. And Jesus says, Peter, then feed my sheep. Feed my sheep. And the reason why he says that, because to feed Jesus' sheep will not be an easy task. Sometimes sheep are difficult to feed, to lead. And the task that Peter has, as we find it unfolds in the book of Acts, was not an easy task. Peter preaches and he gets thrown into jail, he gets beaten, and it's difficult. And as time progresses, as the sheepfold increases, as people come to Jesus and Peter teaches them and so on and so forth, within that sheepfold with those people of God, there are certain wolves that sneak in that are kind of look like sheep, but they're not really sheep, they're wolves, and they cause disaster within churches. And Peter has to take a stand for that. And following Jesus was not an easy thing, and so Jesus says, do you truly love me? And then if you truly love me, feed my sheep. I want you to do some very difficult things. He doesn't stop there. He says, yeah, I want you to feed my sheep. Peter couldn't grasp exactly what Jesus was talking about until he got into it. But he says, feed my sheep. Then he goes on in verse 18. He says, I tell you the truth. When you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hand, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. And Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said, follow me. Peter, you're going to one day face the same type of death I faced. How I was bound and as I was dragged to a place I did not want to go, as I was dressed into something I didn't want to get dressed into, and I was laid out on a cross to die. Peter, the same type of death is going to happen to you. And you're going to do that as you follow after me. The type of love that Jesus was commanding Peter to do was a love that was so great, so difficult. And so Jesus asked Peter 3 times, do you love me? And Peter says, Lord, you know I do. And Peter was asked to provide some self-sacrificing, unconditional action towards people. And the Apostle Paul, in his letter in the 1 Corinthians, he says this. He says this about love. He says this type of love that Jesus is talking about is like this. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects. It always trusts. It always hopes. It always perseveres. Love never fails. You notice it doesn't say love is this warm, fuzzy feeling that you have that you hear in the popular songs on the radio. Love is this great attraction that you have for another person. What this love is all about is it's something difficult. It's patient. Man, I got to wait. Give me a break. It's kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It's not proud. It does not dishonor others. It's not self-seeking. But you didn't give this to me. And so on and so forth. It's tough work. Nothing about this feels good. Much of it's plain hard work. Mind you, we like this given to us, and when those things are given to us, it makes us feel good. And so the Apostle Peter tells us in 2 Peter to add to our faith this love. Add to the bookend, make it the final thing, this virtue of love. Why does he say this? Why does he give this to us? Because Christ did that for us first. 1 John 4:19 tells us that we love because he first loved us. Just think about that for a minute. We love because he first loved us. What was it about you? What was it about me that God would say, hey, I love you? John Boychuk, take a look at all those good things you're doing. I love what you're doing, John. I'm very attracted to you. I'm going to love you. Is that what happened? No. There's nothing about me that I could say, God, take a look at me. Take a look at these good things I'm doing. There's nothing. It was an unprovoked love that Christ had for me to give it to me, something I did not deserve. He just reached out of eternity. He said, John, I love you. And I died for you. And I gave you in a way to get to the Heavenly Father because I love you. And I don't deserve it one bit. And because of what he has done, because he has loved us first, we can love others. That's the only way we can love others, truly. He's given us power to do that. There's really no logical reason why Christ loves us other than he created us. And so he says, Peter, I love you. I have fought the battle. I have won the war. I love you. And I've given you a reason to love. So Christ in his love compels us to live a life of reflecting love. So we're supposed to be unselfish, sacrificial, and show that love to others. Why? Because Christ has done it for us. Why was Peter willing to give up his life and everything to follow after Jesus? Because Jesus is greater than anything that ever was and anything that will ever be. And Jesus did the greatest thing for us. So his love was unprovoked towards us. And we need to have love that's unprovoked towards others. In this world of ours, there are probably about 3 different types of people that we're called to love. It's probably more than this, but I've come up with 3. First type of people that we love are the losers of this world. The ones who have lost. The ones who struggle. The ones who are needy. The ones who have no money in their pockets. The ones who have no food in their mouths. The ones who struggle because of some reason. And so we're commanded to love those people. And many of you are doing that. You give towards the benevolent fund. You give clothing away to places in town. You give time, energy. You give towards the food bank. You help those people within our society who are needy. You give of your time. Some of you even give of your money out on the streets. You do that, and you show love in a practical way. And for the most part, as we do that, as we show that love, it's easy. It makes us feel good. Now, if you had to do that every day, it could get overwhelming. But for the most part, it makes us feel good, the losers of this world. But probably the people who we struggle with loving in this world are not so much the losers, but probably more the winners. Probably more the winners. I have no problem showering blessings or saying, wow, that's great, to someone who does a super job. If somebody was a great artist and I saw a picture that they painted, I could say, wow, that's great. And I could bless them with some great words. That's amazing. I really love what you've done. You're really gifted and talented. I can say that easily. And to an airplane pilot, and I know nothing really about flying, someone who can take people in an airplane from point A to point B and say, wow, you're really good at doing that. I can easily say that. To a doctor who does open heart surgery and say, hey, I really appreciate what you do. I can shower blessings on that person. But when it comes to somebody who is a little bit better than me, for me to show love to that person, for that person that I might be in competition with, for me to show love to that type of winner, I don't know about that. I'm in a race with somebody and he's a little bit faster than me. For me to say, way to go. Yeah. Congratulations. Great. It's tough. If I'm in the business of selling houses and I'm a realtor and somebody sells more than me, I don't know if I could just say, hey, way to go. As someone who's in the same class as me and they're about the same in terms of grade level, but they always get a little bit better than I do. For me to say, yeah, way to go, it can be tough. The person who wins slightly better than you do. Or that person you're talking to, having a conversation with somebody and say, yeah, this is what happened this summer and da-da-da-da-da, yeah. And you're having this good conversation with this person and you're finishing up and this somebody else who is a little bit better than you walks into the conversation and overhears you saying, yeah, and this is what else I did for the summer. And then that person says, oh, that's nothing. Let me tell you what I did this summer. And they go on and they top what you did this summer. For you to say, hey, that's great. Love you, bless you. It's tough to do. God says, hey, let's bless and love those people too. The losers, the winners, and then there are the enemies of this world. The enemies that we have. Those people who hate you. Those people who you do not get along with. Those people you have nothing in common with. We need to bless them. Those enemies could be a brother or sister that you were born with, who you grew up with, that you no longer talk to. They're nasty. We're still supposed to love them. It could be your parent who you felt did horrible things to you and your family. We're supposed to show an unprovoked love towards them too. It could be a coworker, a neighbor, somebody in competition with you. You're called to love that person, and we love them by doing some type of unprovoked love towards them. But maybe, and I know some of these things, some things that people have done to us, some things that enemies have done to us, it's difficult. And maybe it starts by saying, God, I forgive this person. I give this person over to you. I forgive this person. Help me to love. Peter would have heard what Jesus said about loving others. In Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 to 46, it says, you have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be called children of your Father in heaven. And he causes the sun to rise on the evil and the good and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, then what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? Jesus says, yeah, it's easy to love those people you have lots in common with, those people that are easy to get along with. But love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. He says to do that. Why? Because Jesus did it for us. It's unprovoked. And as we do that, he says there's reward. What reward will you get if you do something good to others? Well, probably others will say, hey, thank you for doing that. But towards an enemy, what reward might you get? Maybe a scowl, maybe a verbal abuse, maybe a hatred of some sort, but maybe surprise too. Wow, why are you doing that to me? But you never know, but God will give us a reward in the end for doing that. 3 types of people that we need to love: losers, winners, and enemies. The thing is, we can't do this on our own. We can't do this on our own. Peter, when Jesus asked him if he loved him to feed his sheep, to truly show his love for Jesus, Peter would die for him. Peter couldn't do that on his own. He couldn't do that on his own strength. We can't really truly love the losers, the winners, the enemies of this world on our own. Christ helps us to do that. Not just because Christ has done it for us, but if we are a child of God, Christ lives in us and he gives us the power to do this, not just on our own. And so we need to ask him for that power. We need to ask him for that direction, for that strength to do that, to show that love to others when they don't even deserve it, that unprovoked love to others. Started this message reminding us about the unprovoked violence in this world and in the Middle East and even in our town. Are the acts of unprovoked violence going to be eradicated by the acts of unprovoked love? No, unfortunately not. These activities that are happening in the world, they need to be stopped, and we have governments and authority figures to help do that, but we're going to always be in conflict with evil in this world. Unfortunately, evil is going to be in this world until Christ comes back and sets the world straight. But as we live in this world, we can add to our faith all these different things, but end it with this great love, Christ's powerful love for others. And I believe as we do that, we can make a difference in this little part of our world and make a difference here. It is our desire to encourage you through this program. If you do not yet belong to a church, we'd love to have you come and connect with us. We have programs for all ages. If there is a spiritual need, or if you have been blessed through our service, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us during regular office hours by phone, or you can email us. Thank you for watching our service. May God bless you.